So that's so much insight there. I want to, before we move on to questions and answers, because I can imagine people are just full of questions for you. You talked about, when I asked sort of who's at these tables, right? I definitely want to get to what we need to be doing, some action sort of where, if you're thinking about a business, where are we underrepresented? Where are the markets that are maybe, what's on the leading edge that maybe we haven't seen yet, but we should get in on the ground floor, things like that. But before that, I want to hold on your point about, even if we're at the table, it's at somebody else's table. And of course, we're always going to have to be in partnership and collaboration in the world. That's just how it works. But, I want to give you the opportunity to share a bit about what you've done, because some of the funds that you've started have really helped to aggregate Black wealth and invest that to build up those individual investors, but also the community. So can you speak a little bit about a couple of those, if you don't mind?
Yeah, my whole career has been centered around three main themes: culture, community, and capital. Like, if I think about everything I've done, it kind of falls into those three main buckets. I care deeply about my own culture. All of the books that I read on my spare time are about African-American experiences. I watch Black shows, I listen to Black music. I've been that way my whole life. That's not going to change. My culture is very important to me, just like other people's cultures are important to them, right? And I like to highlight the positive things about my culture. So you'll notice in the beginning and the end of everything I do, I'm always trying to reframe this narrative of what we're doing out here as a community. Now, community is something that is also important to me. And what I realize is that the leaders of our community are not the local doctors and business owners, it's the athletes and entertainers. That's who everyone looks up to. If I were to ask you who's leading this movement for us right now with Black Lives Matter, would you say Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or Barack Obama? The answer is probably no, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's out here as our leaders and people that everyone in our community looks up to. But let LeBron or somebody say something,
right.
That's what people are looking for. So for me, I'm trying to empower and equip the leaders in our community with as much financial tools that they can have so that they can get the message out, and then it trickles down to the rest of our community. In the past, I used to try it myself, and people are like, oh, it's Rashaun Williams, he's a finance guy, like it doesn't matter. But, but if I can get 2 Chainz to repeat something and get that narrative out there and constantly start talking about ownership and being an investor, and then it trickles down to the rest of the community. Then last but not least, capital. I spend a lot of time investing my own money, investing money from my venture capital fund, and helping athletes and entertainers become better investors, and using this concept of group economics. So for us, if we can just start with what we can control. Which
Wait, I gotta interrupt you. Because this is really important. I want everyone to understand. So talk about what you mean by group economics.
Yeah. So I work with over 250 athletes and entertainers, and I coach them as an investor, right? What I notice is that they've been competing with each other their entire career since AAU. Mm-hmm. And they'll buy the same cars, they'll date the same women, they'll go on the same vacations, but they will not talk to each other about money or investments. Mm-hmm. They can be getting robbed from the same financial advisor. They won't tell each other because of ego, because of competition, and because they don't fully understand what's going on. So for me, group economics means educating the masses of the influencers in our community and helping them collaborate together and helping them group hunt deals just like the billionaires in this country do. So when we invest in companies, we'll have 20, 30, 40, 50 celebrities invest with us. And what happens is now they can put in a small amount because my VC fund is putting in a much larger amount. Without a bigger check and without a big group, they can't get access to some of these deals. The minimum is $5 or $10 million.
Right.
So everyone can put in 25 grand, 50 grand, and my fund will put in $5 million. Then we can do group economics and get in. So that's what I mean by that. And it's not going to happen internally because they compete against each other. But a third party person like me who can kind of aggregate them together and break these barriers down, that's been a goal of mine for the last decade. And it's starting to happen more and more now. You're starting to see group economics manifest.
So this is really interesting to me as someone who's not from a finance background. It seems like maybe this concept is duplicable, the group economics concept.
Yeah.
And I want to think more about that. But before we get to our first round of questions, you did mention something practical here, and I want to follow up on it. So you mentioned, the floor is often very high for investments in some of these opportunities, and your fund helps bring groups of investors together to be able to do that. If you are a younger investor, if you are an investor who's maybe not at the $25,000, $50,000 level, what advice would you have to entrepreneurs or investors like that to leverage group economics for their own wealth creation?
Yeah, so if you are not an athlete and entertainer, do the opposite of them. And I'm going to tell you why. It's very simple. Athletes make 99% of all the money they're going to make in their entire career in a 4 to 8 year time frame. Non-athletes, regular people like you and I, make it over a 40 to 50 year time frame, right? So they have 4 to 8 years, and then they have to invest aggressively to live off of that money for 40 to 50 years, okay? You and I can invest today and invest for the next 40 years. So we're slow and steady wins the race. They're like, they have to put it in stuff that generates enough income to pay for their lifestyle. So if you're an average person, make less than $200,000 a year, all you have to do to retire a millionaire is max out your 401k or your IRA and make sure it's in stocks. That 10% of return off of $500 a month, you will retire in 30, 40 years, whatever it is. If you're 20 years old now or 30, you'll retire when you're 60 or 70, whatever the age, and you will have $1 million+ and your mortgage will be completely paid off because it's a 30-year mortgage, and your expenses will be really low because you're not in the clubs anymore. So you have $1 million, you have no bills, and you have nothing to do but pass it on to your kids. And that's what the average American has been doing in this country for generations. And we're just starting now.
Yeah, that's right. And I also think a part of that, though, is it's all well and good for us to say that, but if you're talking to someone who is 20 and they just graduated, and we at UNCF know how expensive college is, just in general, you got those student loans. How do you, it's hard to sometimes prioritize that. So if there's a way to think about this, let's say you maybe couldn't do it in your 20s, maybe even into your 30s. But now you're sort of ready to make the smart financial investment decisions. Would you give similar advice? Not to make this an investment advice call, but I know that there are questions.
No. You're pressing on some very good points that I'm about to go in on. Okay, let me say something, and I want to be very clear on this. It is never, ever, ever, ever a decision between investing into your retirement versus paying your student loan debt. Always invest in your retirement. Always. Pay yourself first before you pay your student loans. So let me give you an example. If you're getting 10% a year returns in the stock market, but your student loan debt is what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%, then you're earning more money than you're paying out. That's your math equation all day long. I know people who are literally out there taking out loans in college just to invest it in the stock market and arbitraging it too. So they'll take out loans for 4% and go and get 10% in the stock market, and they'll keep that 6% difference. Barack Obama still has student loans, and he was the president. Smart people and wealthy people borrow money. That's good debt. You're investing in yourself. Businesses have billions of dollars of debt and billions of dollars of cash on their balance sheet. Why won't they pay that down? Right? So never worry. I see so many Black people stressing out over student loan debt. I'm like, that's an investment in you. Don't even worry about that. Worry about, so pay that minimum amount or whatever amount you can, but you better put that money in that 401k or that IRA and max it out as much as you can, because that's going to earn you 10% a year, and you're going to have money when you retire. You do not want to wait until you're 55 to start putting money in your 401k because you finally paid off your student loan debt. No. No.
Listen, this is some real talk, and I appreciate this. And I think that the reframing is very helpful too, because reminding us that very wealthy people and corporations, they are not pressed about making sure they have no debt. They have smart debt, they have good debt, and it's the fuller picture of what's coming and what's going on. And thinking about it that way.
If you got a Nordstrom credit card, now that's ridiculous, right? I'm talking about student loan debt, which is making you more valuable to the marketplace, which will help you earn more money. That's an investment in you, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay.